Hi everyone, Marla Miller from marlamiller.com presenting our 135th Quick Query Critique. Before I read it, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who has been participating in my opening two-page Google Hangout read and critique sessions. They really are cool. I mean, I'm so thrilled with the possibilities that this technology is going to offer me and you to hang out with each other and get some good feedback. It's almost like being in a workshop. It's really wonderful. I'm just amazed by it. In fact, the query letter that I'm reading is from a fellow who joined me at last night's session. So let's get going on this one. This is a nonfiction. He says that I don't have to blank out his name, so I'm not going to. I'll just use his first name. And, okay, here we go. Dear, did you know that in many states across the U.S., state Medicaid policy ends most in-home care when recipients turn 21? Even ventilator-dependent people, the most vulnerable group on the cutting edge of what is medically possible, are hard hit and put in jeopardy. Backward state policy too often threatens to roll back the lives saved through technological progress. In Alabama, the consequences of the 21 cutoff were particularly harsh, costing multiple lives in the coastal counties alone, until one vent-using student fought back. That activist was me. With my advocacy campaign, dubbed Nick's Crusade, I combined a letter-writing campaign that garnered responses from numerous state and U.S. Senate policymakers with internet activism and news media coverage. My fight and eventual victory was featured on National Public Radio and in an Associated Press article that ran nationwide. But this 2003 coverage only included what I considered the tip of the iceberg at best. I'm now working on a book of narrative nonfiction that will shine a spotlight on the unreported scandal of aging out of care at 21 and giving voice to the true lived experience of young Americans on life support, making this mostly invisible population visible nationally and permanently change the discussion. I'm looking for representation and assistance for this unique project. The recent profile of you in Writer's Digest gave me the idea to query you. When you describe the kind of nonfiction you're looking for, it seems to match my project. And then he's got this bracketed. Permanent hankering for unexpected memoirs with itchy voices, narrative nonfiction that tackles hard-to-tackle issues. This memoir expose is tackling something so hard to tackle, namely young people on life support and Medicaid's 21 cutoff. It's actually never been tackled in print before. The memoir side of it is deep, unusual, and I'm not quite sure what itchy means in this case, but it's far from expected or normal. The policy side of it is written to be accessible to all knowledgeable levels and relatable across every section of the political spectrum. It's the beginning of a new public awareness campaign that raises new issues and could involve multiple books and media and multiple media forms. The motivation that we vent users are unseen where it matters most, in the halls of power, in philanthropic circles, in Medicaid policymaking, in disaster planning, in hospital structures of care. The vent-dependent population can't afford to be invisible anymore, especially as the social safety net is increasingly taken apart. I interview young people on vents like myself and their loved ones to document the many dimensions of crisis across this country. My victory over Alabama's Medicaid 21 cutoff in February 2003 set up a new program specifically for vent-dependent, or in their terms, technology-assisted Alabamans who are aging out at 21. This program made the 21 cutoff, at least where vent users are concerned, a thing of the past in Alabama, making my home state an island of relative sanity in a sea of deep South states, including Florida, that continue to essentially shove their most vulnerable off a cliff just for turning 21, even now in 2013. The Affordable Care Act didn't touch this dynamic largely because people don't know the 21 cutoff exists. I'm coming to you for help educating people, for help telling a story that has never been told in book form. This is not a medical memoir because it doesn't focus on issues of medicine, medical care, medical issues, or a particular disease. It focuses on a social group, ventilator users, an unseen population, and how policy impacts us. This has no resemblance to the personal struggle with disease memoir. It is a fight with government. Policy memoir could fit, or battling the system and winning memoir. It's nothing like my stroke. It is like Erin Brockovich. We're an unseen population that really needs to be understood. No book has ever been written about them about us as a group, nor about fighting against Medicaid to preserve our lives. It's a market hole, but also a hole in the public consciousness that I need to fill. This project is expected to top out around 60,000 words, and completion is estimated by mid-October of 2013. It will not only give readers my extraordinary story of survival, humanity, and victory over a Medicaid Goliath and a blueprint for building local and state campaigns around an unknown single issue. It will also give readers in-depth access to the uncommon and so far unseen world of young people on life support and the injustice ongoing against them. I'm fortunate to have built up a good platform and audience over the years. I'm well known in the field of disability organizing and Medicaid activism. Following the publicity Nick's crusade generated, I received the National Association of Protection and Advocacy Systems Award for Advocate of the Year in Washington, D.C., and delivered keynote speeches at conferences all over the country, including in Chicago, Minneapolis, D.C., and in one of my proudest moments, in Dr. Martin Luther King's church in Montgomery. I blog at www.nickscrusade.org, where a recent post in memorandum of a friend I lost to the in memory of a friend I lost to the 21 cutoff. One of my blog's essays on the impact of cuts in federal budget and universal health care as a human right was published as part of Greenhaven Press's reference volume Healthcare, Opposing Viewpoints in 2008. After developing a skill set in narrative nonfiction while in Spring Hill College writing program, and after moving to Lower Manhattan in 2009, I've begun this project. I also make fiction about Theodore Roosevelt fighting zombies. I'm well positioned to meet with interested parties in New York City. Please let me know if you're interested in seeing my book proposal, which details the project's goals, my bio, and my take on a target audience and comparable titles. With 2 sample chapters done, I'm early in my manuscript writing process, but I have hopes of connecting with an agent editor that can help me craft the best book possible. Sincerely. Okay, so what do I think of this query letter that is 1,000 words? Well, you know what I'm going to say first of all. What I'm initially going to say, what I'm initially going to say is that it's too long, by about 500 words. That's what I'm initially going to say. That said, really like the writing. Really like the writing, except there's so much of it that the really good stuff gets lost. So what I think what we have here, writers, is a query letter that's also part synopsis and part overview of a book proposal. That's what I think we have here. So what the query letter does is it hooks. Okay, so it hooks about this project that I'm not quite sure, Nick, if did you title it here? I think you might have at one policy map. No, I'm not even sure what the title of this book is. I know what the title of your blog is, but if you gave me the title here, I'm not remembering it from reading it, and this is the second time that I've read it through. So we want that title. Titles for nonfiction are critically important, and you're a very good writer, so I think that you could give us a title that is as that reflects the activism that this tale is going to tell. Because what this is it's a political memoir. It is not a medical memoir. So you are focused on the laws against, not on the condition that you have, which I think is cool, fabulous. But you need to keep your eye on that. A couple of things that I'm going to tell you here. Again, we're going to post this at marlamiller.com so that everyone can take a look at it. But I'm going to highlight all the parts of this that I think you should get rid of. Not get rid of. Put to the side and use for either your synopsis or your book proposal overview. And I'm going to then leave the parts that I think are the bones of your query letter. But a couple of things are missing. I want to know if I'm an agent. Now remember, this is about money. This isn't about what you're doing, which is just, so fabulous. It's about money. So who's going to buy this book? So we want to know how many people are impacted by this 21-year-old cutoff. Now, it's not just vent people. It's not just people on ventilators. It's probably a lot of people who are disabled who, once they turn 21, forget about it. I also want to know why it is that I believe there's just a new law that came out that kids can stay on their parents' policy until they're 26, is it? I think, something like that. So I want you to at least consider that when you're reworking this query letter. So we need some stats, because why do we need stats? We need stats to let the agent know that there's a population out here that's going to be interested in this. And it's not just people who are on ventilators. It is every disabled person who gets kicked off of Medicaid when they're 21. And you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, you are specific. You do say Medicaid instead of parents' policy. So if this is true, if it's true that at 21 people get kicked out of Medicaid, then give us some numbers there. Give us some numbers about how many people are impacted, how many families might be impacted by this, who would want to pick up this book and read it. I would think that it's not just people who are impacted, but healthcare professionals who are working in rehabilitation. They would also be readers of this. And certainly political communities that are supportive of all people in this country, not just some. So I think that you've got what I would say is the potential for a pretty darn good book about your activism. Here's the thing that's missing from this the most, and I told you this last night when we were in the hangout session. I want to see you. I want to see you more. I got to see you last night, but I want to see you more in here. And because you are an activist and you are a leader of this movement and you are the best person to be telling this story, because look at what you've done since 2003. So I want you to put yourself front and center. And don't bury yourself in a lot of other verbiage about the overall issue that you're attempting to expose, because that's what you want to do. And I also want you to think about a title that perhaps has aging out in it, because that really hit me, and you use it very well. So I'm not going to say any more than that, but was there anything else? Just hold on just a second. Oh, the other thing is that you spoke to a particular agent, and all that stuff in there, and this is for everyone who's listening, all that stuff in there I want you to get rid of. Don't address one agent and tell them why it is that you are interested in them. I wouldn't cut and paste anything that they say. You can do one line, interested in you because of your list of nonfiction books or something like that. But you spend a lot of time talking specifically to one agent. I wouldn't do that in this query letter. There's too much power in this query letter. You don't actually have to do that. So I hope that this is helpful. I'm going to send you some editing just because I'm a fan, and I dig what you're doing. So I hope that this is helpful to you and everybody else. Until the next time, be well, keep writing.